I went out and tried a bunch of new perfumes, and I've got some not so censored opinions about that. We're going to talk about mainly 24, 25 year releases. I'm giving myself a generous year and a half. And the first one on the shopping block is going to be Jasmin Freak by Room 1015. I got myself a decant from Sunbird. I'm still love hating on this subscription service. I find that their shipping schedule is very flexible. You can get 1 every month, 2 every month, 3 every month, and then the same thing you can do with how often you want to get them. That's super cool. That's super flexible. The pricing has been creeping up, but still doable for most of the fragrances, unless they are doing their 6th Avenue specials. That said, I'm not loving on their new packaging. It's not reusable. It's a mess. Anyway, since they stock to Room 1015, I generally have very warm curiosity toward the brand. I got their Jasmin because I was on the kick of reviewing all kinds of florals, and I wanted to try this one just the same. It is a very warm mango syrup, but full-hearted nevertheless opening. And then rather quickly it falls onto sticky sweet base with a little bit of almost not sour, but zestiness that I find typical for Kilian perfumes. And I brought here, just finished, mostly given away, a decant generously shared by a subscriber for the review. This is Kilian Love Don't Be Shy. This is the version Extreme, but I would say Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian is pretty much a very close cousin of Jasmin Freak, with the difference that this is more milky, creamy. There's a lot of condensed milk in the Love Don't Be Shy by Kilian, and here we have a slightly more interesting and dynamic opening because it starts with sweet enveloping mango and eventually just goes to this vanilla condensed milk type of a base that lasts forever. Granted, it's quite smothering, it's quite cloying, it's very trendy right now. I would hate to be in the presence of somebody who generously applied this perfume, I'm not gonna lie. It also is similar to, what are these super powerful syrupy concoctions? It is not quite burnt sugar or liquid sugar like La Vie Belle. Not really. It's denser, more honey, more condensed milk, and maybe even hints of caramel. There's a lot of heavy vanilla with this grabby, stinky base that just doesn't let go. A Sintra by Memo would be the same overload of cream and honey, white floral. The most redeeming part about Jasmin Freak, which was released this year, very recently in 2025, is that it has a mango opening. That, to me, redeems it quite a bit, especially if you're already in the market to find a new perfume of that genre. Jasmin Freak is probably the most interesting of the bunch. I like it more than I like Memo Sintra. I like it more than Kilian Love Don't Be Shy. It's just not my personal favorite genre of perfumery to wear, and I don't like white florals like that. It's not my favorite Jasmin either. But as I said, if you're looking for super duper charged up gourmand that has both condensed milk, white florals, all of them, gardenia, jasmine, all of them wrapped in together, plus a rather interesting and delightful mango opening, that could be a wonderful gourmand for summer. Mango in the opening, blackcurrant, maybe a syrup, like syrupy blackcurrant, sweet orange. Well, it's like orange blossom, jasmine, you name it. All white florals just completely meshed together into a jam. Along, I believe that tuberose. I don't get as much tuberose. Tuberose tends to give me headaches. I wouldn't call these a tuberose heavy scent, which depending on where you're coming from, could be plus or minus. Musk cashmere wood. I think it's amber wood. I feel this screechy bass that makes me want to escape is probably cashmere wood. I don't know. I think there's some version of ambrox or amber wood in there. Devoted to self-expression. And perfumer Jerome Di Marino. Okay. I was trying to find a press release, and that's something that genuinely surprises me, that a lot of niche houses don't keep archives of their own scents. It doesn't take long to post on your blog, and blog sections are now provided by any web designer, and just do your own press releases, because when you have to read all this information from the product description, like here, this is just a product page, right? It's always too abbreviated. I can't really get any more insight, neither the date of the release, nor where it was released, or who, when, how, event coverage of a product release. Room 10.5 doesn't have it. The Histoire de Parfums doesn't have it. Most niche brands that I know of don't keep their own archives, which I think is even Serge Lutan's. Every time I go to their official websites, I'm stunned how little information about the creation process, about the lore, about the releases they provide themselves. You have to eventually just commit to surviving the barrage of ads on Fragrantica just to get the basics. When it was at launched, sometimes here it's pretty brief, but sometimes they provide a little bit more information that you can find even on the official website. It's things like this: visualization of notes, potentially maybe quotes or an interview with a perfumer, some informational reason for us to say more than, oh, it's a typical Love Don't Be Shy sweet concoction with amberwood, ambrox or something like that, and super duper sweet white florals with honey, condensed milk and mango. We're done. I really wish I could say more, but there's nothing more that's shared, guys. I am surprised, especially if you're a small niche brand. When you're small, when nobody is following you or checking on you, not necessarily, or at least not that many people, your best bet is to be out there as much as you can. And posting blog releases, right, and discussing things is it. This is something you can offer about you that other resources can't. And yet we're often left at the mercy of Fragrantica or Base Notes or Wiki Parfum to dig anything, if at all, information about perfumes. I'm sorry, I'm ranting now, but I have to get it out there. Also, what is the deal about when they discontinue the perfume? It's forever gone from everywhere, from their own archives, from their own online websites, anywhere but Fragrantica. It seems like Fragrantica is the only, well, again, Base Notes, Wiki Parfum, those like collective platforms that try to combine as much information as possible. It is in the best interest of the brand itself to preserve its legacy. Yes, the perfume might have to be discontinued because it didn't sell, or because you had to reformulate 1,000 times and realize you would never be able to reproduce the original splendor. Fine, but at least keep the original release information with pictures and say, discontinued, out of stock. Preserve your own legacy. Where are these archives for État Libre d'Orange, for Histoire de Parfums, for Chapar, for Cartier? Where are they? For Serge Lutens, for God's sake. The master of confusing reformulations, rebottlings, and regional releases. Come on. For what it's worth, if you do belong to a niche perfume brand, or if you're talking to one in any capacity, please deliver this message. The brand has to care about its own lore and about its own legacy. Your official websites should be the place where you can get the most elaborate, the most contextual rich information about the product. How, as perfume reviewers, are we supposed to give you any spotlight if all we have is 12 words from the marketing pyramid? All right, I'm gonna tone it down. I'll try. So, Jasmin Freak, the release of this year, I would dare say one of the best in its genre. And I already told you it's not my genre, so I'll probably be gifting little decants of Jasmin Freak to anyone who joins my shelves at milioraparfums.com. So if you want some, you can get it. A much more wearable, rich, full-bodied jasmine that I personally would rather buy, and I finally got to sample it again to remind myself, is Jasmin Yukatan by New York brand Durga. It was released in 2020. Really unfortunate year to release anything, really. But this is the jasmine that's not too metallic, not animalic, but full-bodied. The Jasmin Freak is too sweet, too much gourmand for it to really be jasmine-centric scent. And Jasmin Yukatan is believable but very full-bodied jasmine. If I had to choose, I would probably go with Durga. That said, I'm kind of jasmined out these days, so not gonna buy it, not yet. All right, moving on. The release of 2024 that I also decided to try myself is Arquiste Grove by the Sea. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a big fan of Arquiste. So I try when I can to try every single release, every single fragrance that has ever come out from them. They make good stuff. It's always interesting, it's fairly long lasting, and it's bright enough, complex enough, and dynamic enough that I can't see anybody being disappointed. Neither people who like more subtlety nor people who like more diffusion and longevity. So A Grove by the Sea is devoted to Adriatic Sea. Actually, I have it open here. So you can see on Fragrantica what we're dealing with. And we got here Adriatic fig leaves, Fleur de sel accord, salt. I think that's salt. Extra virgin olive oil, rosemary, and pine needles. I love anything with cedar pine needle. This like breathing pine needle smell. Christmas tree, northern sea, pines, all of that stuff. So I had to immediately try it. I've never been to that location, so I can't quite know how a sunny island in the Adriatic would smell like, but it definitely reads as an aromatic fougere. If you want to know what aromatic and fougere stand for, watch my Perfume Nation educational episode on fragrance genres. We dive into the most common terms. So you get quite a quote unquote masculine sounding pyramid here that said, is it salty? Yes. Is it mineral? No. For example, I have a full-size bottle by Arquiste that is called Sydney Rockpool. And here, ever so popular mineral accord, and it can mean a lot of things. There are many, many ways you can combine aromatic molecules, ingredients into what sounds like mineral accord. But here you get this zesty, sour mineral accord plus sweet coconut, which in a way is, I would call, a nouveau shipper. Because in shipper, it's so important to have the contrast of bitter sour, greenish smelling thing with something sweet, enveloping, and charming. So classic shipper is moss patchouli against peach, or leather patchouli against some white floral. And in contemporary view of how to create this contrast, it's now becoming ever so popular to combine this zesty, sour mineral accord with something sweet, and in this case, it's coconut. And I can pretend it's all about the pyramid, but the truth is, when Arquiste comes up with the colored glass bottles, like the blue that I have or the green that you see here on the screen, I can't resist. It's the packaging is so beautiful. The fragrance though, a Grove by the Sea. It's quite an adult fragrance. They modernized a rather business fougere. It doesn't smell like shaving cream to me. It's not spicy enough. It's not warm or sweet enough. It's for those of you who really like dense ivy green leaves perfumes. The most prominent part of this, I would say, is olive oil, olive tree. I feel it quite distinctly, plus salt. Everything else helps to supercharge it and make it a little bit more dry herbs, a little bit more opening your lungs. It reminds me loosely of 1828 by Histoire de Perfumes, which is devoted to Jules Verne, and I have that in full-size bottle, so I think I'm gonna skip on this. I am not a shy person. I do wear fragrances that are marketed toward men. I'm not shy to wear things like that. I do have a fair share of things like that in my collection. It's just this is a bit too punchy, personally for me, but it's well made. I would not mind if I got a bottle as a gift. It's just so beautiful, and I probably would recommend it as a gift as well. It's definitely these very dense, freshened up olive oil, olive leaves, ivy. Ivy doesn't smell, but if you've ever had any perfume that says ivy on it, it's very heavy on the green components, bushes, grasses, stuff that makes us think of trees. This could be a super cool contemporary version of that, a fashion upgrade for a well-respected classic. The next one is a 2024 release by Montale. It's called Bubble Forever. I have had a few comments where people were explicitly asking me what fragrances I would call a good, fun representation of the smell of bubblegum. There are quite a few. I think Etat Libre d'Orange has one with incense, not my favorite. I do really enjoy Pink Paradise by Lalique, and I'll leave a link below. I have a sampler that, in my view, from my personal collection, things that remind me of bubblegum, but are fun to wear. They're not cheesy, they're not a dull perfume type of a thing. So Montale is a king of coming up with sweet, enveloping, girly, flirty perfumes. That's what made them famous initially with the rose musk and other perfumes of that nature. So Bubble Forever is a surprisingly light. This is not heavy whipped cream or condensed milk. This is a souffle, more toward whipped cream or souffle rather than condensed milk or a pound of various syrups. In their own words, they pretty much combine a bunch of floral ingredients in order to reconstruct this bubblegum scent. And it's funny that in the 90s, perfume chemists took inspiration fine perfumery chemists, perfumers had to take inspiration from pretty much domestic chemists who invented musks for laundry and all kinds of cleaning products, and they became so popular so iconic that people wanted to smell clean and wanted those musks as part of perfume world. So the whole thing about smelling clean, Lancome Miracle. There's so many white musk perfumes, Byredo Blanche, Herba Pura. Oh my god, there are a gazillion. It's a whole genre, and it's usually white musk something that says in the pyramid. So that came from domestic household chemistry. And in the 21st century, the inspiration for fine perfumery is now given by flavorist chemists. People who spend their career designing flavors for food, because edible gourmands are going nowhere. There's no anytime soon we will see any less of gourmand, edible, appetizing, abstract, and not so abstract fragrances entering the market. So Bubblegum Forever is a fine example of how food industry influences fine perfumery. It is a believable but very romantic. It doesn't smell synthetic like bubblegums do smell. It doesn't smell synthetic. It doesn't smell in your nose. It doesn't smell plastic or cheap. It's this vivacious, flirty, fizzy powder in the air. This flirty, bubblegummy, rosy pink thing. And it's not a stinky one. It's not a beast mode, which I am so relieved. Montale absolutely does know how to make beast mode perfumes. It's also part of their legacy. So this is a very unusual departure. I would have not expected from Montale. They have an enormous library of fragrances, and they keep adding more and more and more. It's hard to keep up with them. But Bubble Forever, is a fine, light, flirty, and worth your attention bubblegum type of a scent if you're in the market for something like that. And his brother from another mother is, I even put it in the envelope so it wouldn't completely lose its charm, is Kurke by Francis Kurkdjian. Same surprise here. Francis Kurkdjian is known to the masses, similarly to John Galliano, now as a fragrance artist director at Dior. John Galliano was their fashion director. Francis Kurkdjian is now heading their whole beauty department, or maybe just perfumes. I'm not 100% sure. But surely everyone and their mother discovered Francis Kurkdjian not even through dozens of absolute masterpieces that he created over the decades, but say it with me, yes, Baccarat Rouge. A rather complex fragrance, I think, that deserves its own video. I intentionally haven't made a single video about Baccarat Rouge because while it was at the heat of its popularity, I think it was a bit overhyped, overhated, and over-discussed, but it was discussed always in the same terms. So if I am gonna embark on this journey to talk to you about the phenomenon, the highlights and the perils of Baccarat Rouge, I'll need some time to prep. If you're interested, please let me know in the comments down below. But Baccarat Rouge and many other follow-ups by Francis Kurkdjian really exploited the beast mode product formulation in the perfume world. They were beating the dead horse. They could not stop. They overdosed Ambrox, Amberwood, all of these incredibly invasive and causing nose blindness molecules to death. And even though it brought him millions and millions of dollars in sales and licensing, I imagine, I feel the maestro is finally tired of his own friend's franchise. And Kurke, the release of 2025 by Francis Kurkdjian, is kind of similar to Montale Bubble Forever. As far of a departure as it can get from Baccarat Rouge. It's quiet, it's soft, It's nuanced. It's very much molecules. It's very much molecular perfumery. I think this is the best yet not a perfume upgrade or replacement. Remember, Juliette Has a Gun really broke the perfume market with ISO Super. Essentially, they just added a ton of ISO Super, which is a synthetic aromatic molecule, and a few things to round the composition, and that was not a perfume. Bestseller, endless times they tried to revive it and give it more of a spin. This goes into the same direction. Kurke is about Francis' nickname in his childhood, and it's technically speaking has a pyramid, but I don't feel much of a pyramid here. To me, it's a molecular perfume. It's complex and simple at the same time, and it's incredibly quiet. It does smell to me like a molecular perfumery. It doesn't smell to me like a bouquet, a composition with phases or dynamic opening. And it's delightful, charming, fluffy. I would, as I said, bubble forever. And Kurke are similar. It's fluffy, it's kissable, it's very, very quiet. I imagine this is probably not as long lasting, but it might give you whiffs, and that's what we really love about good perfumery. You forget you're wearing something and then you just get this whiff of your own perfume. What is this? This is so lovely. This is lovely, fluffy, cuddly. I guess people say as kitten's fur. Lovely, not for the price they're selling it for. Just my unsolicited opinion. Beautiful bottle, beautiful packaging. Fun, quiet, cuddly, kissable type of a perfume. I applaud Francis Kurkdjian to trying to grab yet another market, because it seems there's a dichotomy, at least in the United States. It's either just burn your nostrils to the ground until you bleed, or it's I'm not a perfume, kind of just spritz water and call it a perfume. So this is definitely trying to grab the market of people with sensitive noses, people who swore they will never wear perfumery, but probably have heard of Francis Kurkdjian by the Baccarat Rouge army. So Francis Kurkdjian now has something for you too. If you have a super sensitive nose, if you hate perfumes in general, you barely can wear anything, this quiet whisper in your ear might be just what you need. Next release that is also along the lines of more of a elegant rather than screechy perfume is I finally put my hands on Comete by Chanel. The boutique line release of 2024. The Comete is created by Olivier Polsch, who he's done quite a few fragrances for Chanel, including Chanel Chance. Very beloved for a long time. I think still it's quite a blockbuster of a perfume. Unfortunately, also he made Gabrielle Chanel, which not so much of a fan favorite. So Comete is a beautiful testament how you mine your own history and develop artifacts into your market, into new marketing terms. Comete is a reference to a jewelry collection by Gabrielle Chanel. Back in the day, she was fairly superstitious, so in her jewelry, I think there were some star constellations, something of that kind. So Comete is a testament to, I presume, something of a spirituality, if you wish, that you wear as a fragrance. I specifically wanted to try it because I have an unfortunate experience with Chanel fragrances smelling very secondary and derivative. They're good quality, most of them, especially the boutique line, they're all well composed, they're good quality, but they always smell somewhat watered down and derivative to me compared to many other perfumes on the market, especially niche. And Comete had a lot of promise to me because it was promising a musky iris, but musky not in a way that gives you this liquid detergent feel. It's not clean, but it's more soft, sour, almost like you're drinking Chardonnay and applying some powder on your skin. Iris here has this thin, dry texture. It doesn't smell like boiled carrots. It's more like the dried pages of a book type of a situation. Iris here doesn't smell like carrots. It's more of a dry pages of a book situation. And the way that it combines as well with white wine musk accord is very sensual. It can be loud enough if you apply more, but it also can be incredibly intimate and soft if you apply less. This is officially the first Chanel fragrance that I can say I would be glad to have in my collection. Chanel was always such an easy no for me, beside Coco Mademoiselle when I was younger, all right? Well, we've been through it. But everything else, I think I had chance as well. But nothing in the boutique line, as I said, it's good, well made, it's just derivative. Comete is the first one where nothing else immediately comes to mind, and this is truly interesting to study. I was thinking about what it reminds me of on the character level rather than note by note level, and I remember that Olivia Poche actually made another favorite of mine, which is Pure Poison by Dior. That's also a creation by him. And here you get the same delicate balance. This is way more makeup-y, lipsticky, plus powdery situation. But what I love about Pure Poison, it can be very intimate and quiet, very close to the skin, very much between the sheets. Soft, cuddly perfume. But you can also make it, layer it up, apply more, and make it more of a vibrant, sweet, lilac-y, creamy floral. And Comete has the same quality. It has range. It almost changes depending on how much or how little you apply it. You get a different experience with the same perfume. Well done. Which it's the first time I'm saying that after Coco Mademoiselle. Well done, Chanel. I know they need it. I know they need my royal approval. You're welcome. Guys, you're welcome. Job well done. Comete is truly aristocratic, high luxury, old money, beautiful release. It deserves to be out there. It deserves to be on the shelves. Next is Finley, which is, if I'm not mistaken, is 2025 release by Penhaligons. This is going to be brief. I'm just going to show you the bottle. There's only one redeeming factor about this fragrance is the color of the liquid. It's a beautiful muted olive/Kelly green. And the general fact that it belongs to the Portrait series of fragrances. One of the very few fine fragrance series that justifies the price tag because of impeccably fun, cool, high quality, creative packaging, not only of the bottles and their lids that are animals, but the concept overall. I think Portraits, it's one of the best reincarnations for a brand with legacy that was sold out to a corporation. It's been a part of a larger corporation for a while. It's usually where creativity goes to die. And yet, when they came up with their Portraits collection, they opened a whole new chapter in their perfumery. These fragrances are fun, they're easy to wear, they have enough of longevity and playful notes to enjoy them. That said, Finley, in my view, is not their strongest release. I know that people are dying to try a fougere that has pistachio. Again, we're trying to combine edible flavors now in every genre of perfumery. So a fragrance for guys that is not in your face fougere. So it has this like aromatic type of a situation going on, maybe leathery base. But give us something we haven't smelled before. So they shove in what they call a pistachio accord. Be happy, be merry, spend your $300, enjoy. It's boring. To me, it's boring. I don't really find anything about this that I would go back to, if not for the bottle, if not for the fact that it's Penhaligon's, if not for the fact that it's Penhaligon's Portraits collection. So everything about the conceptual design, 10 out of 10. The conceptual strategic design of the fragrance, fougere, soft, gourmandy fougere without being too sweet, without being only a hint of sweetness. Plus 10 out of 10 is an idea. Choosing pistachio as that twist to the classical genre, 10 out of 10. I think it's a great choice. The execution is just blah. Something didn't quite... I think for a perfume that's devoted to a horse, these would need to be as at least half as vivid as Guerlain Cabochard or the Memo, because there needs to be a more powerful, more vivacious presence here. When we think of horses, they signify elegance and power, speed, energy. This is just a very Gen Z, a male version of Not a Perfume by Juliette Hazegan. Probably if you bathe in it, you'll get there. I can imagine that. But you will use it up very quickly in the price of that bottle, you know what I mean? I think they should quietly reformulate it just to amp up the volume a little bit, amp up a little bit of a contrast in this perfume, and they'll land there. I know brands can do it. I know brands do it. So Penhaligon's, there you go. You're welcome. And I've saved the best for last. I've acquired the Millésime of Shalimar by Guerlain. I am curious what you guys think about these super limited collector releases that a lot of brands are doing these days. And I think Guerlain is the epitome of how it's done. So once a year, and I do hope they will not speed it up like Tom Ford, they release a special flanker, if you wish, a limited edition, amped up, charged up release of their Shalimar with a twist and addition of a different note. The first ones were impossible to find. They would sell out in hours. Every haute couture cash grab, eventually people wear down. Eventually they can't care about every single limited edition release because there are way too many of them, and they realize, okay, there are only so many limited edition releases of the same thing I can really sustain unless I'm a hoarder, which is also fine. What I'm trying to say here is that this is my first one, and I went for this Millésime, which is Jasmin, the most recent one. First of all, because it was finally available. The other ones were very, very hard to find. Second of all, because it was revered by the experts. It was specifically praised for being the most authentic Shalimar of all Shalimars that are available on our market by Guerlain. Even though it's called Millésime Jasmin, most people claim who know better than I do about the history of Shalimar and all of its endless reformulations, formulations, concentrations, and flankers, that Shalimar Jasmin comes the closest to the OG, rich, oily, resinous, very dense formula of Shalimar as the elders know it. And I just had to have it. I was just greedy, essentially. I'm not really a Shalimar person. I'm fine not having poison, Shalimar, or opium in my collection. I respect them, but it's not something I would immediately go for. But here, it's just, they got me. They got me. If there's one Shalimar I'm going to buy, I want to get as close as possible to the reference. It is very well-rounded. It's very much a parfum extract situation going on. What a lot of people don't realize about parfum formulations is that even though they have higher concentration of aromatic ingredients, including essential oils, they do smell more well-rounded, multidimensional, somewhat heavier. They tend to smell a little bit more grounded in a way. But at the same time, they have less diffusion. They have less of these waves or whiffs that you emanate. Parfums tend to sit close to the skin. More similar to oil perfumery, essentially. So this is this situation. When you first smell it, it's almost overwhelmingly full. This whole resinous, amberous thing, so much of it. And I almost wish there was more bergamot, but I can add that. I have some very high frequency bergamot fragrances that I can add to freshen up this composition. But it's such a delightful, dense, golden nougat. This is a flowing, dense river of resins. It's beautiful. I'm happy I have it. And I promised myself that I'm not going to buy another one ever again. One millésime for me is enough. Because, again, as much as a collector in me rejoices when we get these custom little titles and the history and the story and the lore, I love it. I love my heart beats faster when I get into this stuff. But I can pretend not to see how much of a commercial trick it is. So, would I recommend Shalimar by Guerlain? Yes, and if you want to get the most old school, old luxury one, Jasmin, Millésime, Shalimar is available. You can find it in many different places. If this is your one Shalimar, let it be it. It's worthy of a purchase. That said, I am very skeptical about collecting them all. I find that this is a bit manipulative on Guerlain's part. There's another fragrance that I find has way more projection and way more of a vibrancy, but it's very similar, and a lot of people don't mention it. People usually like Shalimar, Opium, Poison Dior. But there is also Le Femme Kenzo, which has more spices. It's way more spicy, but it has the same story. Back in the day when the diversity in perfumery in ingredients was much less vibrant, this would be considered two very different perfumes. I disagree. In the modern world, when you get aromatic pistachios, shrimp with coconuts, this and that, imaginative kitten fur with mineral oils, anything you can think of, these belong together. You unmistakably recognize the same blend. Similar with a lot of heavy aldehydic perfumes, such as Chanel No. 5, Arpège Lanvin, First, if I'm not mistaken, by Van Cleef & Arpels. So, you know what I mean? If you think this is too resinous and too close to the skin, then Le Fan Quinzeau is still produced. You can buy it. You will never ever see it in anybody's in popular perfume reviewers collections, because it's an oldie. It's still available. It's one of those underrated gems that perfume enthusiasts know very well about. They had or have a bottle of Le Fan Quinzeau. It just has more spiciness, but it definitely has a lot of projection, and it lasts forever. If you're not super familiar with the old school underrated gems, Le Fan Quinzeau could easily be nowadays released by Amouage, by Raja Dove, by Kilian, and you see the type of brands. This is truly opulent, and this is very spicy with a lot of projection. And Shalimar Millésime Jasmin is softer, resinous. Imagine very resinous, ambery jasmine scent. Beautiful, both of them. To me, it's more of I have to be in the mood, and for me, it's mostly for cold weather. But I might just give them a run in the humidity of Florida and see if I survive. And that's that. I'm glad I survived the test, because when I came to Neiman Marcus to try all of these stuff, I was quite overwhelmed. At first, I didn't like anything. Then I started to like everything. Then I was very confused. And eventually I realized it's fun. It's fun to go out and try everything new on the market. At the same time, it distracts you from what it is all about. Because once I started digging into my own collection, I realized, and these are not even niche perfumes, right? This is old school designer. You can find it quite budget friendly online. These could be just as big deal releases if they were released now as they were back then. It's just I feel the novelty sometimes disguises the functional need. We always want something new, and therefore something new will always be given to us. That said, every once in a while I think it's fun, but I don't think I'm gonna go and try every new release from now on. It's just not quite my style. I just feel way too hijacked by these dopamine circuits and by all of the marketing artistry. As much as I do appreciate it, even if I had all the money in the world and I bought every single thing I kind of sort of liked, what would I do with all of them? It's just not practical. It's just not feasible to wear even 10% of new releases. And top 10% would be creme de la creme, because we are drowning in new perfumes these days. So yeah, I'm fairly conflicted. I hope you found value in this video. Let me know if you've tried anything new, what impressed you, what disappointed you. I would be curious to hear more. That said, I'm gonna go and focus on things that matter to me in my olfactory exploration, and I will meet you in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because you know what? First of all, it makes my day. Second of all, that ensures that we'll see each other in the next video.